I'm Craig Waller. We're here to introduce the B2C Content Marketing Institute research from Marketing Profs, CMI, and PACE. So the first question, guys, is what struck you most about the B2C research?
I think the thing that surprised me the most is how much it differs from the B2B research. Maybe I shouldn't be surprised at that, but I certainly am. We like to think that content marketing as a process in the organization would be relatively similar across whether we're marketing to other businesses or we're marketing to consumers, because at the end of the day, we're all marketing to people. But I think it's really interesting, and I think it really reflects the state of maturity of where content marketing is as an operational process within business-to-business organizations versus business-to-consumer organizations.
Right.
Don't you find it interesting, though, that the reach from a B2C standpoint is greater, so there would be more effort?
To me, the real challenge in a B2C, and certainly the ones that I've worked with, is that in a B2B organization, the real mouthpiece of marketing becomes certainly the marketers, but it also becomes the salespeople, right? So whether it's an enterprise sales field or an inside sales field, how they deal and nurture a lead through a longer sales process is a much more manageable thing in many cases than B2C, which has sales associates at the retail level. They maybe have an e-commerce component that they're trying to resolve how to solve that channel conflict in many cases, and those sales associates themselves become conduits of the story and the marketing, and so it's a more complex challenge, I guess, is my feeling.
So one of the things that jumped out at me was that for the B2C marketers, they were finding their biggest challenge was budget. Why do we think that is?
Well, I think they have a harder time with budget because it's harder for them to justify what they're doing. When you're B2B, it's a little bit more laser focused in terms of maybe persona, in terms of channel, and in terms of audience. B2C is very widespread, and I think when you try to get budgets to go widespread, there's a little bit of a anxiety attack.
I think the complexity thing comes back here too, right? There's a lot more moving parts here. I think in many cases the B2C are still in that place where they're saying, look, we have so many moving parts here with how we're trying to get associates trained, how we're trying to get our e-commerce platform, unified with our website, our content properties. We've got a lot to deal with.
And I think also, not to say that B2B and B2C are different in sort of when it comes to transaction, that the budgets are like the transaction dollars are smaller. But when you're trying to sell a widget to millions and billions of people and it only costs $5, versus a B2B, maybe a larger campaign to make more money, maybe they can see putting more money towards that because they'll make more money on the conversion.
Yeah, right. The sales process is longer, right? So there's more time to adjust and make adjustments.
Right. It could be 12 to 18 months versus a week.
That's right.
Right.
It was remarkably similar, a lot of the results that we saw between B2B and B2C. But one thing that jumped out was that on the B2C side, at least, they seemed to feel that print was still an important component of content marketing. Why do you think that is?
I think it's distribution, really. And it comes down to the B2C marketer has more outlets for a print distribution, right, than a B2B marketer. And so, many of the clients that I deal with on the B2C side, they've got stores, they've got, office locations or whatever it is, and they can put a print magazine there. And so the distribution becomes a lot easier, and it becomes easier to measure over time. So I think it's a distribution thing, really, at the end of the day. And also, it's something that, it makes sense to do a print magazine to thousands, millions, but you're talking about a B2B customer who maybe has 50 or 100 or 500 customers, and just doing a print magazine for that just seems a little overkill. Yeah,
but right. It's an interesting point. Now that I think about it, my son had a friend over the other day, and I walked downstairs, and they were huddled around the Lego catalog. Yeah, right. There was something visceral to it, and they could huddle around it and look at it. So looking at catalog or magazine for B2C does make sense.
In my last Sunday LA Times, I just got inserted into it was the new Red Bull magazine,
right.
which is just brilliant. I mean, it's just a brilliantly done piece, and you just see it working, right? I mean, it's literally one of those things where you take it out of the package and you go, damn, I wish I had done that. Yeah.